What's up, tribe? Thank you for being here and welcome to my channel. Today's post is titled Fall in Love. And as this is a dialogue between Matias and his higher self, I'd be referring to Matias as me and to his higher self as I am. Me. Today I went to the pyramid with all my intention to work on the details of my pancreas, since it is the physical aspect of the solar plexus. And instead of talking about insulin and food, thinking about what I should work on in relation to my grandfather and his death from the pancreas, the word you said to me was, fall in love. Why? I am, as you well know, the pancreas is the gland that generates the insulin hormone, which expands through the bloodstream in search of sugars, which it captures and metabolizes in order to be absorbed by the tissues and processed by the cells. This is how the body is nourished. Glucose, fruit, which in turn generate sucrose, are all essential nutrients for the body because in their molecular division, they deliver energy to the cell, which uses it to produce proteins and generate the basic reactions for life. For this reason, the pancreas is known for the organ of sweetness, since in its incessant search for sugars, it causes the need to consume chocolates and all kinds of sweet things that make cell feel complete. At the soul level, that is, the energy level, it is the same with relationships. The solar plexus looks for sweetness in the environment because to feed the cells, the physical body, it needs that affection and love, which is essentially energy. For this reason, we usually almost unconsciously associate the idea of romance and falling in love with sweets and chocolates. Me. So someone with pancreatic disease is someone who does not know how to absorb that love, who does not produce insulin, or who has accumulated so much by not expressing love that their cells consume each other in the form of pancreatic cancer. All disease of the pancreas, then, is related to the assimilation of energy, either by the division of the micromolecules of sugars, all kinds of carbohydrates, carbons with hydrogen bases, or by the energy that is produced in falling in love. Which leads me to wonder then, is insulin the physical aspect of falling in love? I am, that's right. We go to the base of everything. Love comes from the Latin concept eternity, that is, from the terms a, without, and more, death. If we know something today, it is that energy is eternal, because it never ends or dies, but is transformed. For this reason, it is said that God is love, since the universal cosmos is in constant energy and transformation. All atoms find stability in the exchange of energy. All molecules replicate due to the exchange of this energy. All cellular structures function due to this exchange of energies. The organs work by the electrical pulses of energetic discharge coming from the energetic conduction of the central nervous system. All bodies seek the heat that energy produces as a form of biological stability. This is why physical bodies need to ingest calories, that is, high energy materials such as carbohydrates, to deliver this vitality to the cells. Therefore, the concept of entering into the process of assimilating eternal energy to nourish one's own being can be understood as on, enter, love, without death, eternity, R, action of, C, neutral, reflexive, for oneself. In English, the term love comes from the Indo-European lubiati, which is related to libido, desire, and pleasure, which are the aspects produced by the chemical reaction of the assimilation of sucrose in cells generating electrical discharges. Thus, to fall in love is the concept of falling into the process that causes pleasure within. With the development of the human intellect and the creation of cultures, these basic needs to nourish the physical body with eternal energy were romanticized, making it the current concepts that indicate that falling in love implies feeling love for another person. The concept arises because before the other, the body reacts with desire, seeking pleasure and affection and touch, nourishing itself with the eternal energy that allows sustenance and moving forward, activating life. So falling in love doesn't have to do with the soul, but with biology? Didn't you understand everything we've talked about? The soul is that energy. The soul is not separate from the body. They are not distinct or separate processes. The emotional and physical processes are intertwined. The physical inevitably depends on the emotional, energetic to live, when the energetic does not depend on the physical. And that is why we maintain that the soul is free from the body, is eternal, and is transformed in many ways. However, it is the soul that makes the body exist by energy, and the body thus becomes a decoder of the soul's emotion. This is why the explanation of all emotions is based on the things that our body feels. Understanding the function of the material, organic, does not kill the idea of an extrasensory soul, but rather reaffirms its presence and active manifestation in your reality. I understand, clear. What happens is that for a long time they have made us think that there are different things, or that everything beautiful and emotional, such as love, has nothing to do with the body, but with the soul, and is much broader and more spiritual than a simple cellular reaction. This way of seeing things emerged since the last 2000 years, taking hold during the Middle Ages, in which the body was religiously considered as the prison of the soul, and that we had to free it from the carnal to return to the kingdom of heaven. This adorned the concepts of both religious and non-religious spirituality, as well as the concepts of the New Age, which, despite speaking of a new time, are nothing more than a projection of heavenly Christianity. The truth is that in heaven there is nothing. At the end of the atmosphere, one finds the lattice of time-space, gravity, the strings of the quantum world, other celestial bodies, galaxies, and worlds better or much worse than this one. Leaving the body towards the heavens does not bring us closer to the divine response, but rather going towards the deepest part of being, towards the interior, where where we realize that the body that makes us up is a wonder expressed from the soul. Perhaps I would say that the soul is the prison of the body, which conditions its existence and way of perceiving, not the other way around. This is why, by aligning the energy, we liberate the body. And from the body, we can speak with the spirit and the soul, manifesting realities. Me. And falling in love is the way to do it? I am. Spirit seeks to experience all it can in the life it has created. Falling in love is that insulin that drives the being to seek in life, to do the unexpected, to get out of the comfort zone, to expand and dare. Falling in love transforms, makes the individual advance on the path of life. The insulin of infatuation seeks to trap carbohydrates, the sugars that you call love, in the bloodstream of life. It uses love to generate energy in the body and create, expand cells, produce. And this is why the body feels falling in love with the need to reproduce. The spirit, seeking to be born, begins the search for that energy in which it will find the nutrients to live. The sugars of the sperm nourish the ovum, mother cell, so that the multiplication occurs. Thus, by falling in love, he finds the other person who will grant him the perfect genetic material for the production of a new being where the spirit will manifest. The love that is felt is optional. Me. What do you mean? I am. Falling in love is not the same as loving. Falling in love is part of a process that seeks an end, to get energy, either to reproduce in another life or to produce a project or action. Once this circuit is completed, one stops being in love because the search is over. But you can keep creating projects which keeps you falling in love. When a couple stops looking for new projects that nurture energy, falling in love ceases to exist. And there I have two paths, either to separate to seek a new source of energy or to live in unconditional love. The most normal thing is separation, because life needs to keep moving forward. Culturally, this has long been frowned upon, even as a failure in love. But from a biological point of view, it is not a failure. If the tree from which I get apples no longer produces apples, me, it is a very frivolous way of looking at love. I am, but practice. So you have the other way, unconditional love. Don't judge one if you have the other. They are different mechanisms. Unconditional love recognizes that love is eternal. And whether or not it is that person as a compliment, it will give me in the same way because I keep giving it. Simply by recognizing that the other is oneself. Thus, I do not take it as someone to draw energy from, but as a part of the forest of which I am part. Thus, one opens up to the world from unconditionality. The condition is always to wait for the tree to give you apples, to wait for it to give you energy, to nourish you with what you hope to receive. Thus, you put a condition. However, is unconditional. You enjoy and honor the shadow of the tree, without judging the fact that it does not give you apples. You simply understand that its capabilities and attributes are now different. Me. So falling in love is the search for energy. It is the development process. It is the moment when insulin moves looking for sugars in life. I am, and all this awakens when you leave the idyllic and the imaginary to go to the concrete. Looking for a focus where to find the energy that propels you forward. Me. What you told me today. The first time you've fallen in love. I am the first impulse that made you take the focus off your idols to have a special person who represents all that you feel and desire. It usually happens at puberty, before you become a teenager, around the last years of the second 7 years, between the ages of 12 and 14, although in some it can happen earlier as well, especially in women who develop and evolve faster than men. Me, I remember my first strong crush was for my best friend. We were 10 or 11 years old, but the whole environment did not show me that it was possible for two men to fall in love, and I always thought that would be impossible. When I was 12 years old, when I began to remember my past lives, the first thing I saw was Sobek, my husband, in the Atlantean period of the Nile, 12,000 years ago. When I saw him, I remembered the love I felt for him again, and I felt it again. I knew he was alive at this time because I could dream of him. I knew that he was born in Italy, which led me to study Italian to understand him. I started looking. That is, I was in love. When I met him in 2012, it was strong for me because he did not remember, and I never told him anything about my memories so as not to condition him. But he felt there was something. He could perceive it. I was in love with his soul until, having reconciled our souls in a new time, we became friends, and that infatuation became love. It was transfigured into the unconditional, free of all expectations. But today I understood something very strong and important. I am telling me, since I remembered him, my love and infatuation with him was idyllic. It was magical. It aroused an illusion that kept me 100% in love. I could never feel the same for anyone else. In fact, to some of my partners, I have sincerely told them that inside me I was in love with who I had always loved, which never allowed me to love 100% anyone else. For years, I believed that this was something terrible because I felt imprisoned by an uncontrollable emotion, in love with someone who had died 12,000 years ago and who today was nothing more than an idea, a dream. When I found him, I knew that I could not live the same, and I had to work through the pain of letting go of the story. But always, with each person that I fell in love again, I built a kind of illusion around him. So much so that reality surpassed, making me suffer more. My friends told me that I usually fall in love more with the illusion than the person. And today I understood why. My first two loves, the first to awaken love in my life, were impossible. My body saw that. In the first, there was no possibility, at least in that context. And the second, in my memories, showed me that I was in love with an imaginary idea that could no longer be real, ever. Still, I could not close myself to feeling it. It was the illusion that kept me in love all my life, creating, traveling, moving forward, doing everything I did. I did a lot for him, for his words, in front of the Sphinx. It does not matter how much time passes or what bodies we have. I will always be there to accompany you. I projected the same illusion on others, and my infatuation led me to do things that were unthinkable at my young age. I realized that the illusion, instead of limiting myself, I had expanded. I that being in love with something impossible had led me to do the impossible. All my relationships were failing because I was centering my love on the limitation of only one being. When I loved in another dimension, understanding this, I felt a great release from the concept of illusion. I am. Well, now you have given meaning and purpose to your way of being. The first loves in life, in puberty and adolescence, have defined our way of relating, loving, falling in love, moving forward and feeling. But also, those who have had traumatic memories of abuse, manipulation, of a relative who says the phrase, I do this because I love you, or you are mine or mine, are all the approaches that someone can have to what it means to seek energy, which builds the idea of what love is. For this reason, today's task is to ask, how were my first experiences of falling in love, of love in my life, and, and how have they defined the way in which I fall in love and love today? Me, intense question. In our spiritual paths, we usually talk a lot about love, but we all have a distorted vision of what it means. And we tend to project into the idea of love what we flee from or what we desire, but not what it really is. I am. Love is the eternal energy that every being needs to develop. It is your context that has molded you to process that energy in one way or another. Thus, recognizing the method that you have taken in your life, you will be able to identify where you are looking for love from. Me, I allow myself to fall in love by recognizing where I have fallen in love from. I recognize what love means to me as I lived in my childhood and adolescence. I am until you can be free and fall in love with yourself and eternity.